I just want to be clear that you're saying that you really think that there are people, a lot of people, who just don't know that putting in the vagina leads to having a child. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
I mean, you just gave an example of someone.
I just gave an example of someone I knew personally
so
who
you
grew
had
up
some
in an inner
stupid friend
city.
who thought that. That's an exception. Most of your friends do not know where babies come from, right?
I think a lot of people who are initially having sex do not have proper sexual education to be
Yeah, I know that.
about
I'm asking you a
sex.
specific question. The
Yes.
specific question is,
I think some people
do
think the
most
pull-out
of
method's
your
100%
friends
effective?
and have most of your friends
No,
always known,
but a majority
at
of
least
my
from the time
friends
they were
have
13 and
access to
up,
education.
that if you put the in the vagina, it could lead to a baby.
My mom was very religious, and I was not aware of that until I was 16 years old. So
You weren't
yes.
aware that putting a in a led to a baby until you were 16 years old,
Yes.
really?
That is correct.
I think we only have a
And
couple.
can I get a show of hands at the table of women who are at this table who did not know until they were 16 years old that if a man's went into a woman's vagina, that could potentially lead to a baby? Go ahead. Show me the hands. 16.
I thought having sex
Maybe
with a woman
15.
you could conceive with, so clearly we have
There are
a
a lot
larger
of
sex ed problem in this country.
No, but there are, my point
Well, you're
is,
saying
there's a lot of
homeschool, so you're saying we should
misconceptions
homeschool.
Yeah.
Because
in
I guess
sexual
when you're
education.
homeschooled,
Yeah.
you might know this. This seems very basic. It's unbelievable to me. So I guess homeschooling would be optimal.
Yeah.
Because then at least children would know that not sticking the in the that leads to the baby. That seems
do you
insane
really
to
think
me. I knew that when I was 10. I knew it when I was 10.
Do you think that like homeschool parents who are most likely more like traditional are really gonna tell their kids, like give them proper sexual education that isn't just wait till marriage?
Well, they're
because,
the most likely because
I mean,
what
I don't
they do
think
is
that's
they,
true
they,
because
yeah, I'll
I
explain.
think they will, and it's completely their right to, but I think they will push an abstinence-only perspective, and that is
Good.
great. Well, let me finish. That's great if the child listens, and if they wait until marriage to have sex. But what
so
happens
you
if
just, because they could fail, they should never try. Great argument.
Gustavo, where did your glasses and hair go? Maddie, help me search for Gustavo's glasses. He will need them leading the charge on the battlefield of love. Sex ed is parents' responsibility.
Yeah, let's just note here that if your criticism of homeschooling is that traditionalists might explain that you should be chaste because a man's going your may lead to a baby, do you think that you could actually accomplish, if you homeschooled your kids, this great feat of explaining to them that if a goes in your you might get pregnant? And do you think that that's actually hard to do in comparison to apparently the public school system, which can't explain to a 16-year-old that this is the case?
Wait, Andrew, can we say P in the V?
Yeah, sure.
P in the V, you know? Just,
How does a 16-year-old, you really gonna endorse the public school system? A 16-year-old doesn't know that that's the case. Another woman doesn't know that engaging in lesbian sex doesn't lead to reproduction. And your whole thing with homeschooling is, but these trads might not explain it? Really?
Wait,
That's the argument?
That's not my argument. I said, what if the kid doesn't listen? And they don't understand.
But
hey,
that's
and
the
they
same
don't
criticism you
understand.
could apply to a public school. If they could go to a public
Absolutely.
school and
I
also
think,
not listen.
I think we've established that public schools are not successful at it either. I'm saying.
Yeah, so if the criticism then is that it could happen in public schools, which it clearly does. We have two case examples of it happening right here at this table. If that's the criticism, it can happen there and in a homeschooled house. Let me ask you specifically, is your daughter going to know by the appropriate age that if a goes in her, or a P and a V,
P and the V.
happens,
P and the V.
that she may get pregnant? Is she going to know that?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
There's also
yes.
S in
If
the
she's
D.
gonna
I have a
know
question.
that, insane.
Hold on.
It's like it's
There's
almost
too many
like you
questions.
could teach her that.
Too many
I have a
questions
question.
going on. Isabel does
Yeah.
have a hard out.
I'm so sorry.
She
I
has
I
a
wish
hard
we
out
had so much
final-
more time to talk about all of this stuff,
Yeah.
but I am really encouraged, first and foremost, that we're willing to talk about this stuff that people in positions of power are telling us to never talk about. That is such a signal of hope for me about our generation, and I hope that we can create more opportunities for stuff like this. Because I look around this table, and despite all of the crazy things that have been said in the chat and a lot of the disagreement and divisiveness, I see so much beauty in the women of our generation waking up to these lies of leftism, be it hookup culture, be it the hormonal birth control pill, we didn't have time to go into that today, or abortion, but even just a desire for something more, right? A desire for marriage, a desire for children and motherhood. I remain really optimistic about the future of this generation, and I'm so grateful for you all being willing to open your heart and your mind to a different perspective. That's very challenging to do in the world that we live in today. And Brian, kudos to you for continuing to do that multiple times every week, because people are really actively trying to halt these conversations to further that division. But I'm grateful for every single one of you.
Can I ask you, Isabel, before you
Yeah, go for it.
Doesn't it seem like an absurd endorsement of the public school system if this woman here in the blue didn't know you could get pregnant until she was 16 years old?
My school did not have sexual education at all.
Didn't you have
And it is not
parents? Your
required.
parents never told you this?
So I was actually in CPS and dealing with parental custody problems, and now I have two lovely parents who have had extremely open conversations with me about sex and sexuality, and I'm very grateful for that. But I think it is ignorant to say that every individual
So
has
this
the
other
same
state
experience.
system that you went to also did not explain this to you? So the state has
Yes.
just failed you at
I did
every
not
possible
have-
level.
I did-
CPS failed to tell you that,
my
that
high
that's where
school-
babies come from. The public
The
school
only
system failed
concept
to
I
tell you
had
that's
of
where babies
sex
come
was
from. And
baby.
yet,
And
when it
does
comes to
not
homeschooling,
discuss
the criticism just now
childbirth.
was, but what if they don't follow what
Why are you
tell them?
attacking the
Well,
way
at least
I was-
they'll
Quick
fucking
answer to your
know.
question,
Holy
Andrew.
shit.
Yes, scathing indictment of the public school system, but it's also the public school system that's teaching kids today that men can get pregnant, and people actually believe this. So much bigger issues happening in the public education system, and I think conversations like this are so important because it just goes to show how truly little actual education is happening within our generation. It's all indoctrination and propaganda. All right, thank you all. I got to jet
she
to
has
the
a-
No,
she has a
airport.
comment.
hang on. I can't just let you walk there. Hang on. We're almost done, but I got to ask you this. How credible is it to you that inside of a public school system and the CPS and all of these state-run organizations, nobody told this woman that a going in the could lead to pregnancy? That
P
doesn't
in the V.
sound
P in the V.
absurd.
The public school
Of
system
course it's
told me
absurd.
that
Absurd.
periods don't hurt.
Yeah, of course it's absurd, Andrew, but sadly it's not the most absurd thing I've even heard in the last 24
Sure,
hours.
sure.
And I
So-
think
so
for
then
most
the
people,
indictment here-
they are so unaware of how deep the rot of systemic lies from leftism, authoritarian leftism, have taken over every aspect of civilization in America. The entertainment
Hey,
industry, the
totally
education
agree.
system,
I agree.
media, politics, even the church, right? It's becoming more popular to recite the Sparkle Creed on Sunday rather than understand the tradition of
But
religion.
wouldn't it then be true that if the criticism is, well, wait a second, you could tell your children at a younger age than 16, which is insane, that P to the V might lead to a baby. If you could tell them at a younger age that this was the case, how in the world could that be an indictment of homeschooling, Isabel? It
Oh,
couldn't,
I'm
could it?
so ecstatic to see homeschooling on the rise, and I don't even think it's labeled as like a trad thing to do anymore. Over 11% of American families are homeschooling their kids, largely after COVID, because we got a front row seat into what's happening inside the classroom. So all incredible things, and that's really the message that I want to leave this on today. Look, again, we can focus on the doom and gloom, apocalyptic, Gen Z is destroying America thing that I think is so attractive and low-hanging fruit, but at the exact same time, and this is what I wrote my entire book about that hit shelves a few weeks ago, you're watching this dramatic countercultural radical movement of young people looking around at every single lie that's being told to us in society, in school, in pornography, on in the abortion industry, everywhere, that things we talked about tonight, and realizing, you know, we're tired of being lied to. We're tired of empty promises. We're tired of secularism. We're tired of leftism. We want something a whole lot more meaningful. And for all the crazy divisive things that we've said today, I'm so happy to know that every single person sitting around this table wants to get married, and everybody but two wants to be a mom. Those are the types of
Wait,
cultural...
I don't want to get married.
Brian!
I don't want to get married. Hold on,
How
Isabel.
dare you?
Let's keep you here another
You
20
horrible,
minutes.
insane person. No, it's just exciting to see because those are the cultural changes that we are starting to make on an individual basis that ultimately will impact politics, that ultimately will impact policy. But as Andrew Breitbart is famous for saying, you can't change politics unless you change culture, unless you change how people live their day-to-day lives. And us quitting our birth control, deleting our dating apps, wanting to get married in a culture telling us not to do that, wanting to have kids. We might still fundamentally disagree on a whole lot politically, but I see this as an incredible launch pad and stepping stone into common ground and a future country we're all proud to call home again that's just based in objective reality on things like where babies come from. And I'm hopeful that our ability to have these difficult conversations makes a better path forward for everyone who comes after us.